Well, let's get more on this story now. We're joined live by Tracy Walder. She's a former FBI Special Agent and CIA operative. Tracy, thanks very much for being with us. This inquiry is now underway. It's running in parallel with criminal investigations. Bring us up to speed on those.
So in regards to the criminal investigations, it is somewhat of an arduous technical process. Basically, we have about 500 that are still outstanding in regards to prosecution, in regards to penalties that have been given to people. It's become very difficult because Washington needs to sign off on a lot of the dealing. Typically, it's prosecutors that have a lot of discretion over that. So it's just become a very, very long, more than 6-month process, really.
What sort of things are these 500 people being charged with? Because there's obviously state offences and there are federal offences. Where do they fall?
So that's a great question, and it really depends on what the person did. We have some that are being charged with sort of minor trespassing charges, other ones that are being charged with, beating a federal officer. So there's this huge gamut that runs in, 6-month prison sentence to a 20-year plus prison sentence. And so that's been part of the difficulty as well, is that we really don't have this umbrella federal charging statute that can really charge all of them with one crime, but just with sort of varying degrees of that crime.
And how are people being charged? Are prosecutors finding it easy enough to get witness testimonies and witness statements given the size of the crowds we saw?
So you would think that it would be very easy, as a lot of this played out on, iPhones, on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media. I think, in all honesty, the biggest problem that what they have right now is actually too much evidence, kind of having to comb through all of that and pare that down and decide on what are the most prosecutable charges that we can put on these people, and also how can we get these folks to sort of strike a deal. I think really the mountain of evidence is what's causing this delay.
We've heard talk of these proffers, so-called proffers, being offered by the prosecutors. What are they and how do they work?
So basically, with a proffer, what they do is, if perhaps someone's charged with sort of a light felony, maybe they could bring that down to a misdemeanor if the person agrees to, first of all, plead guilty to the lesser charge, which is a misdemeanor, and then provide the government with access to their social media, their cell phones, those types of things. And really what that is a way for the government to get access to any of those contacts. It's, assumed that a good deal of them have access to domestic terrorist organizations like the Proud Boys. And the hope is that getting access to that information will allow the government to sort of get ahead of this issue and get ahead of future attacks.
Tracy Walder joining us from Orange County. Thanks very much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.